All right, good afternoon, everyone. I can't believe it's the beginning of June. Happy to be here in front of you, June 1st. I hope everyone had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Nice to see some my old friends and family, and hopefully you guys had some nice little safe gatherings and enjoying just, and thankful to our veterans and everyone who, just show our appreciation in memory of all of their service to our country. So today, I wanted to cover something important. It's the new open house, and I kind of wanted to promise to you from last week that I wanted to discover and share how we're going to conduct these new open houses uh, in compliance with LA County and the various counties we participate and do business in, ultimately to make sure that we and the people in the public are all practicing in compliance with the program prevention plan and adherence to the CDC guidelines. And we'll just kind of touch a lot of these in detail and answer your questions, because I do want to encourage you. The guidance from CAR is you could conduct open houses as long as your broker allows it. And for my purposes, I'm going to say I'm going to allow it as long as the agents have participated in this training of open houses so that they do understand what are the protocols that we need to do in order to practice and doing safe adherence to the CDC guidelines. So that now that you guys are all here in attendance, you guys qualify, and this is going to go out to everyone and recorded on YouTube in case some of you guys missed out. So, how many of you guys, just by chance, this weekend, if you're working, how many of you guys visited an open house? I'm just curious. Did anyone go out and do some business or show some properties? Because I did, and just want to, yeah, Yoko did as well. So great. So some of you guys are staying busy. I know some of your clients are happy to see a little bit more activity going on the listing inventory side. So they are allowed, LA County, Orange County, and our neighboring counties, we can conduct open houses. I wanted to start sharing my screen and giving you a little overview of what we need to understand. And by any means, if you have questions, just interrupt me as well. So this is the guidelines from the CDC and in compliance with CAR's newest releases and the new forms that we need to be educated about how to stay in compliance, okay? So I'm gonna share with you that yes, we can now advertise in the MLS open houses for our new listings right now. So we do not need to schedule necessarily each single appointment with each client and each agent. So no longer required in most counties, but if you, we do need to make sure we have certain protocols in place. So let's go ahead and talk about what are those protocols. Okay, and I'm going to kind of show you with some of these new revised forms down here below. So you guys see my email regarding this, right? The social distancing is still is kind of a little bit more lax as before. I'm sure you guys see that many businesses have started reopening and having more, I guess, vacancy, not vacancy. They're having a little bit more lenient ratios in terms of occupancy of who's inside. So we still want to I still encourage everyone to have that 6 feet social distancing between different households, but you may have, prior to this release on last 2 weeks ago, we only were allowed one household at a time. Okay, so now we can have multiple households attending and being present inside the house. And I do see different open houses. Some people say one household at a time, which is okay. Or you could have multiple households as long as they're 6 feet away. So how are you going to do that? Maybe you have, to me, you could, if you have a really busy open house, maybe you allow one party in the household at once. Maybe you have another household doing the exterior tour while they wait and then they go inside. I think that's a good practice recommendation from my standpoint. Not necessarily, even though it allows multiple households at once, I still encourage you maybe separating them out. Now, The only way to get around the requirement for appointments is to have the sign-in sheet, okay? That is called the PSI form right here. So the sign-in sheet will be a requirement in order to make sure we have what's called the replacement for the PED form, okay? Prior to or during the pandemic, every single agent had to supply a PED form in order to gain and grant access that they're in compliance with social distancing, wearing masks and gloves, and so on and so on. So you can choose to do it two ways. You can still do the old-fashioned way. That's acceptable. Every visitor submits their PED form to you, and they can give you the PED V or the PED all, and I'll show you what they're like. Or if you want to grant them access without an appointment, you would need them to sign in prior to entry. You would put up a little bit of maybe a open, like a little counter space or a sign-in sheet area. Have them sign in with their name, email, phone number, and that will substitute the PED form. Okay, so what does it look like? Let's take a look. Here's what the sign-in sheet looks like. And it's a very simple form. You might need to have a property, several of these sheets filled out, maybe like 5 or 10 of blank forms when you go, because you don't know how many people are going to come in. So go ahead and you got a new listing. You're going to go ahead and put it in MLS, and then you're going to have it open this weekend. Let's say, whatever, June 6th through June 7th, open house on Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 4 p.m. Go ahead and advertise that in the MLS, but you can have them optionally send their PED form in to the agents, requesting them to grant them in, or alternatively, all visitors who come to our open house must sign in using form PSI, and you're going to go ahead and take each adult's name, okay? So if you have a party with a family, you're going to take the two parents and maybe the two children. They can go ahead and just, you grant them access, I guess. They could write their names in along with their name if you would like to, and they sign as the adult. And then you put the time in here and the phone number and email. What is this checkbox regarding the request copy of documents? So request copy of documents is basically the protocols of what they are required to comply. So you can send them in a this link here, and that's a copy of the document that they need. Okay, what does it look like? Here it is. I'm gonna try to bring that up. Okay, that link didn't work. The document is basically, I'll show it to you here. It should be something like this right here. The best practices guideline and showing rules, okay? So you can always just give them this link here and say, if you want a copy of it, here it is. This is required. This is the rules that they signed for, and they agreed to have comply with this document. And that's very simple, okay? One page, they can get a copy of this. You send this along with, if they request it, okay? If they check that box. Does that make sense? So it's a very simple form. So that's how you're going to be able to have a little maybe a clipboard and a sign-in sheet that they agree, and no longer having to do the old-fashioned PED form. But if you want to prevent maybe a line out your door, and you want to prevent having people touch those pens and you disinfecting them, then go ahead and take a look at the new PED form that you may start using and requesting to grant other people access. So this is revised as of May of 2021. And the new PED form, I love it. It does not no longer require you to separate each address for your showings. This is the generic for every showing, and you can sign and date it as of today, and it should be good for your, several appointments that's coming for the next week. Um, if you're going to use this for maybe 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks now, I would suggest and recommend you get a newer PED form again, because it's only valid technically for the 10 days of the declaration. If you see here, they have no knowledge of the past 10 days of being afflicted with COVID. So that's, to me, it's valid for 10 days. Okay. So it's bold letters. You do not need to sign a separate form for each property, and go ahead and use this for all your showings that you're scheduling out for your clients. You still need to remember the visitors are voluntarily entering at their own risk to into the property. They still need you to put in your PRE, pictogram, posted rules of entry. And I'm going to show you what that looks like real quick. It's this simple pictogram, the same one that we're using for the past year, regarding, you guys see here, they agree to wash their hands or use the sanitizer immediately before entering. They're going to wear their face masks, even if they are still vaccinated. No matter what, you're still wearing a face mask. And 6 feet households, as long as you're not in the same household. You got 6 feet distancing, and try to avoid touching surfaces and doors and windows and latches and whatnot. Okay. So they are also declaring they're not in contact with anyone with COVID in 10 days, no sickness or fevers or other symptoms of shortness of breath. And it still now says that they agree to sign in or be delivering a PED form. And that's all you need to do now. Put up the new property rules entry form along your front door or at the front window, right when you walk in. Easy, right? Now the forms are also revised and shortened. So we already seen this PRE. We've already seen the BPPP, which is the prevention plan form that you're going to email to the clients. We've seen the new sign-in sheet, which is here. And now, what is this new LOHA listing agreement addendum? Let's take a look at what this looks like. This is a listing open house addendum sheet. What does this do? It says that when you take your listing between you as the listing broker and the seller, okay? So this is to use to supplement your listing agreement, that the seller agrees to allow you to hold an open house, okay? Sometimes the seller might be still living in there. So this is kind of the consent form that you're gonna have public coming in with visitors, and it's going to declare and let the sellers know what protocols we are going to follow. So we're going to give them a copy of our broker prevention plan and the posted rules of entry, and making sure that the visitors declare that they're not inflicted with COVID in the past 10 days and show no symptoms. The showing requirements are going to be allowed to the sellers to see what we're going to be doing and the requirements for the visitors that come in. And we have a requirement for making sure the property is safe as possible. So we will open all the doors and windows to make sure that the weather, as long as weather permits, to make sure there's great ventilation going on, turning on the air conditioning unit and letting some of that air blow through. Every window does not need to be open, but I'd say every potential window that you open as many as you can, so that there's good airflow through, okay? The other compliance requirements is the broker's duty to make sure that this is very, very compliant. There is something that it's not written on here, but this is the one requirement that I was told from another broker that we should be practicing, which is, remember we were supposed to disinfect between showings? The old broker protocol form previously said, if you read it, there's disinfecting of all commonly touched surfaces between showings. Now, if you read here, the revised BPP says we are going to disinfect surfaces once per day, per 24-hour period. That is my guidance to you, what should be required. Much, much easier than disinfecting between showings. So you can see it's a little bit more lenient, less rules for us as practicing practitioners, okay? So that's the new update, okay? So go ahead and use this. This is only a one-page form, and I'm so happy that it gives this kind of disinfecting protocols it gives it less stringent requirements. It just takes away the language between showings. Nowhere does it say it between showings. So once a day should be what's called our practice for Coldwell Banker Dynasty agents. So is this listing open house addendum required? I would say if the home is vacant, not required. If you have a tenant in place and a seller living in the property, I would ask you to, yes, make this as a good practice to add this to your listing agreement, because you want the seller's consent and the tenant's consent to allow people and to give that you've given language and these forms of what we're going to be doing for your open houses. You're going to, do the best you can and stay in compliance. And so you have their consent to conduct this open house, okay? So that's really the newest guidance. We covered all of these forms. Here's the questions portion. Do you have any questions regarding open house? Okay, nothing? We're all well trained on this? So I'm already seeing what's called open houses being advertised in the CRMLS. Let me show you a nice little tool that I use when how do I search for open houses? How do I conduct an open house? And I'm going to give you some tips. Anybody have any questions for me? So I'm logging into my MLS. Do you guys see me logging into the MLS or no?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I do have a question. The question says, what is your showing routine be like with your own listings? And so I'll tell you what it's going to be like. Okay. So let me go ahead and first, let me show you how I can search for open houses. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the routine should be like and answer your question. When you go to search, right, there is an open house category. I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but let's say I want to find any active listings that are residential, single family residences in the city of our local areas of Arcadia and Temple City and San Gabriel. Okay. So let's say I want to go ahead and search what open houses can my clients attend this coming weekend. And for the next week, I could see in these 3 cities, we got 13 open houses scheduled in these various properties. Okay, there's June 4th, June 5th, June 6th. And it tells you the time, it's active. And the ones that say public should be for anyone to attend. And let's take a look at this one over here on Palm Avenue in Arcadia this Saturday, 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Beautiful $5.5 million newer construction home, right? And this is listed by Alexandra and IRN Realty. So These listing agents are saying to contact the agents for a private showing, and they're doing it the old-fashioned way, send your PED form along with it. I don't want you to do it like this. I was going to basically give you some additional guidance how you're going to write this out and the protocols for the person's question. So I'm going to give you, let's take a look at the next one. Okay, here's a Coldwell Banker office. They ask you to adhere. I like this language here, but let me go ahead and take a look at, I'm gonna see what's the best type of written language I see first. I'm gonna take their language and let's go ahead and type something out, which I would go ahead and say we could use in your open houses, and you so that way you have something here. So if you want the language and to answer the person's protocol questions, how do I want to do it? There's a couple of ways. Okay, so yes, you can still do by appointment only. And I'm going to go ahead and say something like this. Assuming it's vacant, I'm going to, do you guys see my Word document right now or no? Let me just make sure you guys can see what I'm sharing. Okay, so here it is. This is my screen. I hope you guys can see this. If it's vacant, okay? So if you have a vacant home, I'm typing this out, and that's what I probably would write. And then for the open house portion, something like this, right? Then I'm going to type in the language you want. Okay. So that's something I would write, and then go ahead and just input your own information here and to send them your PEAT form. And I wrote in here some language that you can use. Welcome to our first open house weekend, and feel free to send your buyers direct as you please. All visitors will be required to send their PEAT all form to us prior to open house, or alternatively, you may have the client sign our PSI sign-in sheet when they arrive to the property. We'll be hosting one household at a time inside the premises. And if you would like to make an appointment, we will prioritize agents, buyers who have an appointment scheduled to skip the line. All showings to comply with COVID-19, current federal, state, and local agencies for safety guidelines and regulations, and you please email repeat, blah, 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 blah. I already mentioned that part. But that's all you really need to do. And then you, to answer the person's question on the protocols, you're gonna do this on your MLS statement to the private remarks. You're gonna put up the sign-in. You're gonna okay. Then you're gonna have the CDC. What's that language called? Hold on. I'm gonna start sharing the forms that we're showing out. Then you're gonna have
The guideline.
the guidelines posted at your front door. The pictogram right here. You see this one? Okay. Then you're gonna have a sign-in sheet if you're gonna hold an open house, or you could gather the appointments for the open houses. You don't have to write the prioritizing. You could just do it by weight by late, but I'm just suggesting that so that you encourage people to send you the PEAT form instead of just randomly getting a bunch of people who are coming at 2 o'clock, let's say. At least you could say, oh, I do have already, if the agent sends you, they're requesting 2 o'clock and on whatnot, you can at least kind of tell them, oh, I have 2 people coming around 2 at 2:15. Maybe you come at 1:30, or maybe you come at 3:30 is better. So you can at least kind of do what's called crowd control. That's my suggestion to you. Okay. And then you basically just sign in sheets, and if they request for the BPPP form, then you just give them a BPP form and email it to them because they're going to write down their email address on that form, on the sign-in sheet. So it's very simple and easy to do. Just want to make sure you guys have some language that you could put up. So you can always refer back to this when I upload this to YouTube. And I'm pretty good with this language, and you can make modifications as you like. And obviously, if this is tenant or owner occupied, it does not change too much. I would just say you're not going to have a super lockbox necessarily. You're going to make them by appointment only. If you're going to have a Supra or the open house, if you're going to have showings by Supra Key, you're going to maybe make it by appointment though, so that the owners know when someone's coming in, because you don't want to make an appointment when the seller is there, they have no knowledge, and they might be showering in the bathroom. You want to let them know and make sure that you have confirmed appointments, even if you have a lockbox. So does that answer the person's question regarding the protocols of steps to take when you want to conduct an open house? Okay. I'm going to the chat. The person says, yes, that suffices. It's not very difficult. It doesn't change too much. So now the portion of the rest of the class, I'll just talk about how we're going to conduct a great open house. Okay. Due to the limited open houses, the limited inventory, and the hot market, I'm going to tell you that you're going to want to do as much crowd control management as you can possibly do, because especially when you're a brand new listing and it's your first open house weekend, who knows how many people are going to show up at the door at any given time. So here's my guidance for you. If you're going to hold an open house and the crowd control, here's some steps and tips for you. Firstly, the appointments with the PED forms will help you kind of steer some of the agents who are making an appointment, let them know what kind of time frames is best for so that they can get a skip the line and have a more open time frame. Or alternatively, you let them know there's no line. If you want to come in at 4:30, my open houses ends at 4 o'clock. You can come 4:15 and I'll make sure that everything's on for you and ready. So you can do those measures and let them come in after you're showing and open houses. And the second tip you can do is to bring a partner or two with you. So I don't recommend, because of the first open house weekend, you don't know how many people are going to have someone available. Every open house that I attended this past weekend, which was 3, they had an extra person managing the sign-in sheet, greeting the guests, and letting them know where they are in line. Okay. So for example, I was out in Arcadia, took a look at a property, and the greeter was like, welcome to the open house. I'm Kelvin Chang. I'm assistant to the listing agent, and we're doing the best we can for COVID safety. We're allowing each household at a time. Currently, there is a party inside right now, just came in 5 minutes ago, and we're requesting all visitors to sign the sign-in sheet. By the chance, did you guys already make an appointment and send us your PED all form? Yes or no? And they're gonna tell you, no, we didn't. Okay, great. We need all adults to sign the sign-in sheet and fill it out so we can grant you access, and you guys will be next when this party exits. Okay, they should give you no resistance and on signing that form. And if they refuse to sign, then you cannot grant them access. Okay. And if one of the parties wants to sign it, then that one person can go. Maybe the husband says, I'm not vaccinated yet, I don't want to go in, but you could let them walk the outside. That's okay. We need it for visitors inside the property. Okay. If there's a line of 2 people or 3 people, you should let them know there is 2 parties ahead of you. They're standing out there. They will ride next, and then that party, and you guys will be third in line. Okay. So we happened to be, when I went to the property, I was third in line. I had to wait an extra 25 minutes outside, and I just followed it because that's the protocols they're asking for, and then you have to just be patient. Okay, or come back maybe 30, 40 minutes later. Now, here's another tip. Besides adding the next part, adding someone else to help you, they do not have to be a licensed realtor. Okay. If they're not talking about the property or the pricing or negotiations or features, they are allowed to take sign-in sheets. They're allowed to tell people where they are in line, and they are allowed to hand out a flyer. Okay. That's the duties of a non-licensed person who's helping you out about the property and the info sheet. But they're not supposed to be talking negotiations, how many offers, what's the best price, and or any other negotiations about the property. Make sense? But you should also, the listing agent probably is going to be giving a tour, walking them throughout the house, and they're going to be busy watching and mindful of the of of the people in the parties, if for valuables and everything like that. But ultimately, here's some few other tips for you to do the crowd control. Uh, you know, Try to make appointments spaced apart if you can, or what I did for my own listing when I held an open house, I had all the agents do their super showings on Saturday, so that way I could do Sunday and did all the public people who wanted to go. So that was a measure I took. One agent, one day for the agents, one day for myself and my team to do the open house. The other way is have more open house dates. If you have even a Friday or a weekdays like caravan, you can spread out some of the interest by holding more available opportunities for public to come in. If you only have one open house date, then everyone's gonna rush in that same time frame. So maybe have an expanded hours instead of 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 5, 1 to 6. that the expanded hours gives more flexibility as well, correct? Um, the next thing you should be doing in terms of preventative measures is still have those gloves, booties, have some face masks available, have hand sanitizer right there at the front so they can conduct their, hand wash and whatnot. Sanitization wipes like those Clorox beach wipes, those are great too, so that you can disinfect before and or after your open houses. Make sure you go ahead and just do the commonly touched surfaces like buttons, doors, windows, latches, knobs, cabinet handles, and all that stuff. So that way you can just do your compliance and make sure it's as safe a thing as possible. And then lastly, and people are asking me, how about food? How about drinks and refreshments? Are we allowed to bring those back? And I'm going to say do it at your own risk. But if you're going to allow and have food and refreshments, make sure it's not something that people can breathe on, that's individually wrapped. So that way people can't, kind of expose others to COVID, even though they're wearing their masks. I don't know where they've been. So individually wrapped sandwiches or individually wrapped brownies or cookies, that's fine. Don't just have something that's kind of come and get it as you please. Maybe you have someone who's wearing a mask and gloves being the server. If you're going to have something live, like sometimes some people go above and beyond and they have a taco truck, that's okay, you could do it. But the person who's maybe you have a server who's going to be giving out those plates, who's wearing a face mask and wearing gloves and handling everything for pass out individually. If you're going to have drinks, make them individually bottled or cans, okay? And that should be acceptable. But don't have like a big plate of pretzels or chips, because if they're reaching in and grabbing, that's, even if there's a serving spoon, there's opportunity someone can cough on that. So it should be individually wrapped bags of chips or cookies, okay? That's simple and easy enough. Other than that, open houses signage. Go ahead and advertise with your signage on the street and on front of the door, but you must still adhere to local city regulations. Certain cities don't allow unlimited signs on the public streets. So if you're working in city of Arcadia, you can only still have, I think it's a maximum of 4 signs on the streets and 1 additional one at the front house. Okay. I can't remember the exact number, but follow the exact city regulations on where and when you can place signages. Flags are allowed at the front, and as long as you remove them after before and after your showing open houses, you're good. Don't leave them out overnight if you're going to do Saturday and Sunday, because the city could pick them up. Okay. And you'll find them at the police department if the city happens to pick up your signs. The other requirement, as a reminder, since it's been a long time since we've had open houses, don't put any public open house signs or A-frames on a wheelchair ramp. Okay, it must not block the intersection or the sidewalks. You must have enough sufficient area for wheelchair access and bike riders to pass through, pedestrians through that walkway. So if you're doing at an intersection with a signal and a light, they typically have a little dipped area for wheelchair access. You do not put it on block the wheelchair access. That is a violation. It must be to the side somewhere, maybe next to one of the poles, but allow free access for the bikes and wheelchair ramp access. It's very simple and easy. Just make sure you're adhering to those protocols, because they could issue you a fine for that. You stay within the local regulations. Certain cities do not even allow any open house signs at all. One of them might be called San Marino. You can only put the flags and the signage right at the front of the property, right? Any other questions on open houses to help you prepare for the new normal, the new COVID open houses? You guys are easy today. Any other questions I can help you with before we end today's training? You want me to cover anything else? How many of you been seeing the same number of busy buyer activity, or is anyone noticing there's a little bit less demand, a little bit less frenzy? Adam, how about you?
Yes, I noticed it. The market is kind of like slowed down a little bit. It's a second year instead of full throttle. Since
How do you notice that? What are you sensing?
uh, more inventory and could be like more buyers.
I totally agree with you, Adam. I feel that the frenzy that we've experienced in the pandemic was largely due to the limited inventory. So with instead of 3 months rolling supply of average normal inventory, we've only been doing and working with 1 month of inventory or less.
Mhm.
So that's a third of the inventory, 2/3 of the inventory, not in an abnormal market that's gone from our eyes, from the buyer's ability to kind of focused our attention on. So therefore, you've had oversupply of demand on the limited supply. So therefore, now that I've seen some more listings hitting the market recently, maybe there's a few more sellers trying to take advantage of the hot market, and now they're ready. Let's go ahead and sell, and trying to hopefully get a top dollar for their property. I too, just like Adam has said, I'm experiencing number one, the more supply for me to show. Number two, I talked to some of the agents regarding the number of offers that they're receiving. Instead of 20 plus offers, they're more like 10 offers or even a little bit less.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's half of the demand is gone. Thirdly, I'm noticing that the supply of listings that we have active, they're not going on the first 5 days anymore. Now I'm noticing it maybe doubling on terms of on average, taking 10 to 14 days before they on average getting themselves sold with less number of competition. So that's a good signal for those buyers who were frustrated or disappointed in the past year not getting their offer accepted. Encourage them to come back to the market, come back and start exploring and making appointments for various showings. And there's an opportunity for these buyers to finally get their dream home in a less competitive environment. I've noticed that the terms from the sellers are a little bit more easygoing now. So instead of removing contingencies up front or asking them to reduce to 10 days, you can still get your full 17 days inspection period or 14 days. You can have a little bit more leverage on your terms. And ultimately, to me, what's important is I've noticed some properties market with either the property canceled, maybe they had buyers before, or potentially.
Oh my gosh. I had to mute myself.
Lois has a phone call. Let me get her on mute. The other thing was I'm noticing was some properties are showing a price reduction. I'm noticing. So we never saw price reductions in the past year, but now when they come back on the market or the ones that are lasting 30 days, I'm noticing a 20,000 price reduction or 30,000, 50,000 price reduction. So that tells me the demand is not as strong as it was in the last year. There's a little bit more room now to negotiate and basically really just not have to go way $100,000 over asking now. Maybe it just takes asking price or near that. Okay. So use these kind of to your advantage. Use these kind of tips that this is my consultation to you, and then you can use it to your clients. Hey guys, the market is shifting. It's no longer a full-fledged seller's market. We are in the market now transitioning towards a more normal market where it's still a seller's market, but it's transitioning a little bit less, what's the word? More regression towards the buyers, more of a normal market. It's not a buyer's market yet. I'll let you guys know when it's a buyer's market. That's when the supply is great, and we've reached 3 months supply of listings, and we've seen listings staying on the market longer. With hopefully what we're going to see in that time frame is probably more of a short sale market or more listings, just a great supply. Okay, but it's not that we're not there yet, guys. Okay, we still need some foreclosures to hit the market, and we need short sales to be on the market, and or some of these tenant properties finally to see some evictions going on so sellers can get their properties on the market. So we'll see that supply coming maybe in half a year. Okay. All right, guys. That's it for today's training, unless you guys got any other questions I could help you with. Did any of you guys talk real estate with your gatherings and some of the people at the barbecues this past weekend? Hopefully I did as well. I had people ask me, Kelvin, it's a crazy market, isn't it? Oh, real estate's doing really well, huh? And they're asking, they're asking me real estate advice. And I hope you guys took advantage of those opportunities to talk about what's going on, talk about how you're helping clients, and to ask them, how can I help you or anyone else that I can help with in your family or friends or relatives that need to buy or sell. Ask for the referral, guys. Don't be shy. Use these opportunities to share the goodwill that you're doing in your business, so that way you can find your next deal and get some stuff going, because it's going to be a great real estate summer activity market right now. We're hitting the peak summer activity, and families want to buy and their properties right now so that they can be ready for the next school calendar year in the fall. So get ready for a hot summer, for a lot of activity, open houses reopening, businesses reopening. I will see you guys next week at the sales meeting, and in 2 weeks for the next Kelvin's Keys to Success.
Thank you very
all.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.